and they can fight their way up to the top, sort of like a sperm fights its way to get into the egg, right? There's 100 million sperm per ejaculation, and only one gets to get into the egg, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're each given the same chance to get there. If you have a situation where people can put out their ideas, this is how I think we should run the planet, this is how we should run the country, and it's free and open, and it's chosen in that manner, I think that is the future of democracy. It'll be a system where, sure, there will be an elite of a few thousand at the top, but it'll be a transparent, everybody can see them, and they can agree with them and follow them, or else they can fight them and have a chance to take over and kick them out of place. That is the sort of system I'm hoping will replace the one where they do it in secret and you don't know what they're debating, what they're thinking. And that's the problem.
Well, obviously, I want as much transparency as possible, and I think that these, meetings like the Bilderberg Group are quite treasonous. I mean, they violate the Logan Act and everything else. And, those are the ones that we know about. I mean, we don't know about all the think tanks out there that sit in an NSA room and they're just like top-level generals and they sign off a piece of paper and they put out all these ideas. And then those ideas, say they come up with 20 of them, it's one guy that basically says, I think that one's good. If you look at the Northwoods proposal, for instance, I mean, they had about 13 or 14 different proposals. None of them were actually used for what they wanted. Kennedy was then killed less than a year later. But they proposed a lot of things. Had they gone through with Northwoods, I highly doubt they would have done everything there. So, I mean, I'm with you, Benjamin. I want more transparency. I don't think that they should be able to hide behind the veil of not only secret societies, but national security and classified documents.
Right.
But how are we going to get there? I mean, a lot of people are going to propose that the only way we can get there, Benjamin, and I'll get your take in the last segment after this, is through one world government. I mean, and, that's what I'm sitting here fighting. I don't want to see one world government. I don't want to see more power to the United Nations or a global body like that. I'm sort of a nationalist, but we'll come back and get your take. BenjaminFulford.com, INFOWARS.com. Folks, it's the Alex Jones Show. I am Jason Burmis, subbing in for the rest of the week. I'll be on the Sunday show, and I'll be through Thursday at the DNC with Alex reporting live. We are in our final segment with Benjamin Fulford of BenjaminFulford.com. If you want the English version, it's /indexenglish.html. And really, I just want to get your final... I mean, you've said a lot here today. I mean, if what you say happens on September 30th, we could be in for an entire global restructuring, really. And it's pretty scary. But why don't you just wrap it up for us? What are your predictions for the next 6 months, Benjamin?
Well, I don't want to predict right now because we're headed for some very turbulent times, and it's not exactly clear how it will work out. But my overall understanding is that we're going to come to an end of the secret government of the West ruling the planet. Now, you talked about a world government, and I'll be honest with you. I'm actually in favor of a world government. However, I don't want a world government controlled in secret by a bunch of inbred European and American families that, manipulate the rest of humanity for their own personal ends. But we do have some problems on this planet that can only be solved if we think of us as living on one planet and not as separate.
Well, what do you think those problems are?
Well, for example, we've had something like 20 to 30% of all living species on this planet gone extinct in the past century. That's a problem. You have these oceans that nobody has authority over being overfished, and so we're swimming around with fish in the oceans. We have 50 million people dying a year of starvation. So we need a very minimal structure so that, for example, countries, when they have a problem with each other, they don't go to war, they sue each other. There's an international court where you can sue if they think they're messing with you, and you can trust that court. And then you need an international organization to take care of the environment. And finally, something to step in when people are dying in large numbers in order to stop them from dying. Very minimal architecture is needed.
Well, let me just take issue. Well, let me just take issue with the environmental thing. First of all, I'm not, one of those guys that thinks we should pollute the environment all over and do whatever we want. There should definitely be regulations. But over the last 20 years, I mean, I can say in my personal life, I was fear-mongered as a child into, global warming and all these horrors, and by the time I was going to be 30 years old, it was going to be 10 to 20 degrees hotter and maybe even worse than that, and now they're talking about a carbon footprint and us paying this carbon tax and limiting our water and saying, if you have too much garbage or you have 2 cars, you're going to be paying taxes on those. I see that as a huge mode of control, and I see a lot of people in this country, people like Christopher Dodd and others, proposing that as actual legislation, and to me that's totally frightening and totally unnecessary.
Okay, well, the global warming thing was a great con job by the nuclear industry, okay, to create the image that nuclear technology is green and environmental friendly. And they have hijacked the environmental movement for very sinister ends. And look, the amount of carbon dioxide that humans have so-called added to the environment since the beginning of industrialization is 100 ppm, which is 1/10,000th of the atmosphere. So anybody out there who wants to, they can do this experiment. Take a thermometer, go to a bar, light a cigarette. Okay, that's CO2 that's coming out of the end of that cigarette, and see if the bar gets hotter. It won't, okay? So I don't subscribe to that CO2 nonsense, okay? Mm-hmm. And I deeply regret the environmental movement has been hijacked by these nuclear interests.
90% of them are into that. That's the problem.
Yeah, what I'm talking about is a third world farmer who has his only choice is to burn down rainforest or watch his kids starve. And I'm saying, let's give this guy fertilizer and stuff so he doesn't have to burn down the rainforest and kill unknown species.
All right, Benjamin, you can't be accused of being boring. Thank you for joining us. It's the Alex Jones Show. Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.com. We'll be back after this.